Everyone is talking about how impressive it is that Mahomes has led the Chiefs to a Super Bowl without Tyreek, and it's one of the main reasons why many are overlooking what Jalen Hurts has done in Philly.
2nd and 10. Oh boy, deep ball it is, and it is caught for the touchdown!
Before we talk about everything that's happened now, we have to rewind back a few years. Back when Jalen Hurts was drafted and behind good old Carson Wentz on the depth chart. Seems like almost a decade ago now, but crazy enough, he was initially behind Carson and this fellow named Nate Sudfeld going into the season. Seems insane, but it wasn't until week 2 that Jalen even got the backup position. So it wasn't that big a shock that he didn't get all that much action until Carson started doing stuff like this.
Wentz throwing, and there's the interception.
Fast forward to week 13, and following some rough play by the Wentzster, Hurts was able to come into a game against Green Bay, and although he didn't play phenomenal, it was good enough to earn him the start going into the following week against New Orleans. In his first career start, Jalen was able to put up over 160 and a touchdown passing, along with a pretty ridiculous 106 on the ground. I think that many, including the Saints defense, overlooked Jalen's running ability out of Oklahoma, and even though he didn't put up 100 the rest of the year, he was still able to put up quite a bit of tape.
Hurts. Up the middle, Hurts, stretching out, Hurts, touchdown!
Even though he helped Philly get a win against New Orleans, no amount of Hurts donut could help the Eagles win any of their last 3 games, as they finished the year with back-to-back-to-back losses. In the 4 games that he was actually able to get some reps in, Jalen put together a decent stat line with over 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns through the year, although the 4 picks were a bit rough, even when you factor in the additional 303 on the ground. All this to say, Hurts was pretty decent as a rookie, but really didn't do anything all that crazy. So going into 2021, many figured that it would be a tricky task for him to turn an underwhelming Eagles team that was coming off a 4-win season. Because of the lackluster end to the previous season, many wrote off Philly as a work in progress. And in terms of Jalen, some even went so far as to consider him a potential bust. Seems pretty wild looking back, but in the moment, the Eagles were coming off a 4-11-1 season where they finished last in the division by 2 games, and had lost the last 3 in a row with Jalen at Q. With all this in mind, it makes a lot more sense why not much was expected out of Hurts and the Eagles after such a turn of events. And I mean, Jalen had only started like 4 games, so that alone had many questioning their chances at anything but another underwhelming year. Needless to say, there wasn't all that much hype on what they would do in 2021, and let's just say that a 2-5 start didn't exactly prove the doubters wrong.
In the pocket, throws, picked off at the 31-yard line.
In that time, Jalen played pretty well, but against teams like San Francisco, Tampa, and Kansas City, pretty well doesn't get you the win. So it was on Jalen to get the Eagles back in business going into the next half of the season. For practically a first-year player, that's quite a bit to ask for, but as he was able to prove the rest of the year, Jalen is not like many out there.
All day to throw. Looking deep for his tight end Goddard, and the ball is caught!
After a pretty dang underwhelming start, the turnaround after losing to Vegas was able to help the Eagles finish the year 6-2, and as a result end the season 9-8. Not too shabby for what many considered a lost cause. And Jalen's over 3,100 and 16 through the year, along with nearly 800 and 10 touchdowns on the ground, were proof enough that he was not even remotely close to a bust.
What do you mean by that?
Crazy enough, the 9-8 record earned the Eagles a spot in the playoffs, as they got matched up against the defending Super Bowl champ Brady and the Bucks. So needless to say, the odds were more than stacked against Jalen and the Eagles. And although he had been playing well, it was a bit too much for Hurts donut, as his just over 250 and a touchdown, along with 2 picks, ended up leading to a loss against the GOAT. Honestly, I can't blame Jalen for the underwhelming performance against what was one of the best defenses in football, but let's just say that it gave him some fuel going into what was shaping up to be one of the most pivotal seasons of his entire career. Sorry to stop the video, but since you're here, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below who you think's gonna win the Super Bowl. But anyways, back to the video. After a massive rebound the previous year for Jalen, his pal and Devontae, and the rest of the Eagles, things were already looking up going into 2022, but they got a whole lot better.
Go! How about this trade that just went down?
Considering that Philly was coming off a 9-8 season, and upon that, Jalen, Devontae, and the rest of the studs had another year under their belt, along with now the super underrated AJ Brown joining the team. Many were curious about what would happen, and let's just say it went better than anyone could have ever imagined.
Hurts wants it all with Brown. AJ Brown beating Johnson, staying in.
Week after week, win after win, Hurts was in a completely different galaxy, somehow playing better than he did at Oklahoma, and maybe even high school before that, because my man was locked in. In the first 8 games, the Eagles were undefeated, as they had about as many wins as they did all the previous season in half the time. Not too shabby by the Hurts fellow, but the run came to an end against Washington, even though Jalen put up nearly 200 and 2 touchdowns. I'm sure Philly was in shambles after losing to Washington, but 5 straight wins following some more MVP play by Jalen softened the blow. But against Chicago, even though he's able to rush for 3 touchdowns and they ended up winning, Hurts got banged up quite a bit, and so he had to miss the following 2 weeks. Minshew wasn't able to do all that much against Dallas or New Orleans, as the Eagles lost back-to-back weeks for the only time all season. So thankfully enough, Jalen was able to come back and take care of business against New York to end the year with a win. In the games that Jalen played in, Philly went 14-1, so if that tells you anything, he was not just playing decent, he was playing like an MVP, and his stats backed it up as he put up over 3,700 yards and 22 touchdowns passing, along with nearly 813 touchdowns on the ground. Jalen not only went from an above-average quarterback to a good one, but my man became one of, if not the best in the league, only really behind this guy named Patrick Mahomes.
The move, Mahomes stops, spins, flips it forward for the touchdown.
In only 2 years, Jalen went from a third string behind Nate Sudfeld to a quarterback on the best team in the NFC and maybe the league. So needless to say, it's been a pretty insane turnaround. But anyways, as the 1 seed, Philly got the bye, and after a nice little rest, they had a matchup against the Daniel Jones-led Giants. And let's just say that Jalen took care of business.
A juggle of the snap. Hurts found it, and there's the end zone ahead for another Philadelphia touchdown.
Only 150 and 2 touchdowns seems a bit underwhelming, but considering that Kenneth and Miles combined for over 200 yards and a touchdown, he didn't have to do all that much, and yet the Eagles were still able to smack New York without even trying. It was wild just how easy it was for Jalen to win his very first playoff game, but let's just say that it got a whole lot easier the following week against San Francisco.
We're going to look at this. I'm looking at it real time. Yeah, he was hit right there.
Considering that every quarterback on the 49ers depth chart got injured, Hurts didn't have to do much at all, so his 120th of the year were more than enough for them to demolish San Francisco 31-7. Not only did Jalen just turn around an Eagles team that won 4 games only 2 seasons ago, but he has them in the Super Bowl for the first time since the run with good old Nick Foles, and it's the reason why I'm making this video in the first place. Jalen has led the Eagles to a Super Bowl, and they are very much in the mix with Kansas City, so how could he possibly be overlooked or underrated? Well, let's talk about it. Everyone is hyping up Mahomes and the Chiefs for making it to the big game without Tyreek, which is 100% commendable, and it's a major reason as to why Mahomes will almost certainly win the MVP. But I don't think I've seen the same love for Jalen. The Eagles were in shambles 2 years ago while the Chiefs were in a Super Bowl, so needless to say, they deserve a lot of praise for getting to this place, especially considering what Jalen has done in such a short amount of time. Keep in mind that this is only Hurts' second full season as a starter, and yet he's gone 16-1 in the games that he's played, so although the Eagles have a stacked roster, it all comes down to how good the guy at Q does. Wentz was a starter 2 seasons ago, and you saw what happened then. So although there have been some new additions, and players have come back from injury, Jalen has more than proven himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and so if he went up against anyone but Mahomes, he would likely be getting a whole bunch of praise.
Oh man, you're just ruining it.
This isn't a long-winded way of saying that no one is hyping up Hurts, because he's definitely getting some love. It's simply me saying that I think he deserves a lot more of it for being the main reason the Eagles are here in the first place. And let's just say that if he's able to beat Mahomes, then he's a certified legend. We'll see what happens, and I'm sure a bunch of you guys are watching this after the game. But win or loss, Jalen is a one-of-a-kind talent, and I think he deserves to be seen as such. But anyways, do you guys think that Jalen is being overshadowed by the Mahomes, or am I just chatting nonsense? Let me know in the comments down below. Jalen Hurts is one of the most talented quarterbacks in football, and the fact that he's been able to lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl in such a short amount of time is pretty dang amazing.
2nd and 10, Hurts. Going to try the other side this time. Coming back to get it for the touchdown.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and God bless.
Want a Hurts donut?
Okay.